And a constitutional showdown is underway between the executive and judicial branches, a stress test on the more than 2-century-old system of checks and balances. Did the president defy a federal judge?
Today, that judge demanded, again, to know why the administration flew hundreds of Venezuelans to El Salvador after he ordered a delay to consider whether the deportations were legal.
The White House insists the Venezuelans are criminals, but as we have reported, there is reason to believe at least some of them are not.
Scott MacFarlane was in the courthouse for the face-off between the judge and the Justice Department. Scott?
Yeah, John, nearly a week after the deportation of those 200-plus Venezuelan nationals, the legal battle has metastasized into something quite different, into questions over whether the president intends to follow or defy orders from judges across America.
Before the unannounced deportation of 200-plus Venezuelan nationals, including suspected gang members, few had ever heard of James Boasberg. But as the week ends, the chief judge of the U.S. District Court in Washington is now at the center of a potentially landmark standoff with the Trump administration. Again today, Boasberg and the deported men were blasted by the president.
They're bad people. We don't want them in our country. We can't let a judge say that he wants them. You know, he didn't run for president. He didn't get much more than 80 million votes. And we just can't let that happen.
In court this afternoon, Boasberg blistered the administration for ignoring his order to turn the planes around Saturday mid-flight and instead keep the Venezuelan men locked up in the U.S. until he could review their cases. Boasberg asked a Justice Department attorney, "Did you not understand?" And he accused the administration of disrespecting the court, ignoring orders, and missing deadlines. Trump's critics say the president is openly defying the judge and risks destabilizing American democracy and the separation of powers. Former Department of Justice lawyer Aram Gavour said the stakes are high.
What do you make of this standoff, this one in particular?
The president has invoked the Alien Enemies Act, a statute from the 19th century that's quite powerful, but also untested. So as a result, the litigation is necessarily going to be fast-paced, intense, high stakes, and there will likely be, and there already currently is, further review with appellate courts.
Attorneys have argued to Boasberg some of those scooped up last weekend weren't gang members at all, including a soccer goalie who's a native of Venezuela. An attorney argues the Trump administration mistook his soccer tattoo for a gang symbol and gave him no opportunity to make his case from jail before he was deported. Lee Gallant of the ACLU represents plaintiffs in the case.
And so I think what we're going to see are many, many people being falsely accused of being a member of this gang. And what that means is they could end up in a Salvadoran prison for a year, 2 years of their whole life.
And Scott, the president says the judge wants these guys to stay here in the country. People might wonder, is that true? What's the answer?
Now, Maurice, quite the opposite. The judge asked point blank today, why not just keep these men in jail and deport them through the normal channels to ensure no mistakes are made? The Department of Justice didn't directly answer that, but did indicate in court today, Maurice and John, they intend to do more of these types of deportations.
Scott, what happens if the Justice Department keeps not answering the judge's question and he keeps saying, please answer my questions? Where does that go?
Could be a dramatic showdown next week. The judge has scheduled a hearing which could lead to a contempt finding if this defiance continues. But John and Maurice, it'd be tricky. The people signing their names to these court documents, the U.S. Attorney General herself and her top deputies.